But for me, I think the biggest issue is that you have kids that are interested in coding, or like, maybe a little, but their parents don't understand. Like their parents in that way, they're like, no, you need to be a plumber, or you need to go work in the mines. So I actually think like, and this is just me riffing off the top of my head, like some outreach to like parents of kids, like there is so many different career paths in tech, and like you need to be aware of them to help your kids decide if, because like there's so many aspects of programming. There's marketing, there's design, there's product, there's like, it's unfathomable,
Sup techies? Today we have Alexander Karan. Alexander is co-founder and chief technology officer of ClimateClever. ClimateClever is an EdTech startup helping schools and communities reduce their carbon footprint and utility bills. Alexander's passion for tech lies in system architecture design, user privacy, and data security.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no probs.
So you're the CTO of ClimateClever.
Yes.
And I think that you're on the lineup for TEDx Perth.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I was really excited about that. It got delayed due to COVID, which was a shame. But yeah, no, so it's actually TEDx Perth Youth. So it's like aimed at getting more younger people going to TED Talks. So it's from like 15 to 30. I mean, you can go if you're above 30, but you have to have someone younger with you, So
that's great. So it's like a nightclub where you have to bring a girl with you.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. Yeah. But I'm doing a talk on data and privacy, which is quite
pretty cool. Pretty relevant too, actually.
Yeah.
Can you give us like a snippet of what you'd be talking about?
So I didn't want to bum people out too much and just depress them. So I've gone with like sort of a flow of like how your privacy is being invaded without you being aware. Then giving you an example of why it's a good thing, because most people's reaction is, well, I don't care.
Yeah, of course.
And then I sort of end it with, here's a few things you can actually start doing, to make a difference in your life. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that requires effort. It's like a gym membership. You don't just get a gym membership and you're in shape. You have to work at it. And privacy is a bit like that. So I think that's the biggest barrier, is people actually have to care.
I think a big problem is also that it's just easier not to do anything. It's about the effort you have to put in, right? And if I didn't do anything, my privacy is less strong. But at least I didn't have to put in any effort.
I would love to use DuckDuckGo, for instance, but I just every time I go back to Google, I resent it every time. But
there are people out there that turn off JavaScript when they browse the web, but that doesn't really work 99% of the time.
Tell us about ClimateClever and what you do at ClimateClever and what you guys at ClimateClever do.
Okay, so ClimateClever is a bit of we do a lot actually. So it started off just helping schools reduce their carbon footprint and save money on their utility bills, which is, for a school is amazing. Like, one, they get to, reduce their carbon footprint, and then they also get to save money. And, I'm not talking like a few dollars here, I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars we can save a school every year. It's pretty cool. Wow. But we've actually started branching into homes now. So we're helping homes reduce their carbon footprint, and we're also working in partnership with councils to help them sort of track and understand the carbon footprint of their suburbs and stuff. So that's kind of what it is on the surface. And then under the surface, there's lots of carbon calculations, machine learning, tons of apps. But that's kind of it in a short span. So we're just kind of really trying to help drive that low carbon future. So we all have a planet to live on, but at the same time, save some money in the process.
That's great.
That's really cool.
I don't want to roll too much into the technical side, even though we both obviously speak the same language.
Yeah.
This is a good segue though into the second question.
Yeah.
It's about programming, right? About how to learn programming, how you got into it, and kind of the the current state of the nation in terms of the pedagogical approach. A lot of people go into university, study computer science. There's been a plethora of boot camps coming out, people self-learning. So how did you get into programming, and what kind of advice do you have for people that want to learn how to get into tech?
Okay, so I got into programming by accident. Like, it wasn't
Nice.
But if I think back to being a teenager, I want to be a musician. I played drums and guitar, and my mum sort of told me, like, you can't be a musician, you'll be a bum for the rest of your life.
What's wrong with that?
I'd be happy. Yeah, exactly. I'd have been happy. So that didn't happen. So I went to university and did audio and electronics, which isn't even anything to do with programming either. But I sort of picked up programming while I was at university on the side. I built like a drum machine. Then I started building digital effects units and stuff like that.
Cool.
And that's kind of it. And then I sort of, after university, because I grew up in England, I couldn't get a job because there's just no jobs. Like, I couldn't even get bar work. Like, they were like, "Oh no, you're overqualified for bar work." I just want to eat, so I'll give you a job. So I set up my own business, like doing audio recordings and building digital effects units for people and stuff, which involved a little bit of programming. And I got a job on the side to sort of supplement my income through the ups and downs of being self-employed. And my side job realized I was good with computers. And before I knew it, they were like, "Oh, let's build some apps inside Excel sheets," which,
oh God.
Yeah. So I was just like,
it's common though.
So it's so common, right? Yeah. So that's how it started. And then before I knew it, I was building an iOS app, and like I was building all this script stuff and managing data, but it just went off the chain. So and I was like, man, I've been programming now for 4 years, and this isn't even what I want to do. And so I moved to Australia, and I decided, let's do it. Let's just give programming a go. So I went full freelance, and I was just like whacking out iOS app after iOS app in Australia, because you guys have like no developers. When I moved here, it's like just not enough. It was so easy to get work because I could be like,
was this in Perth or just were you in another city?
In Perth, because I could just be like, here's some work that I did, and people were like, "Oh, great, an iOS developer could actually code. Like, here's some projects," right? So, and then I ended up working for an agency for a few years, and then I am here I am now. So that's kind of like 10 years But so I didn't have any formal training from a university. It was all self-taught. I used a lot of online platforms. I still use online platforms, so I'm always learning. Like a few that I recommend are like Team Treehouse is great for people starting out. Udemy and Udacity when you get a bit further along. But I'm really anti-university, like for programming, because I've had so many people from universities come and do internships with me, and they're like, "I'm a third year, I'm ready to go," and I'm like, "Cool." So and they can explain like theoretical stuff, some theoretical stuff that I don't even know, because I never went to uni and did computer science, right? But then when it comes to actually writing code to build an application, nothing. And I'm like, but that's actually what's important. That writing the code to build the application is the important part. Oh yeah, we haven't done that yet.
That is absolutely our experience too with hiring developers, and with all of our recruitment that we've done, we would say 1% of people can program, and that statistic applies to university graduates as well. So just because they're a university graduate does not mean they are any more likely to be able to program.
Yeah, well, we just hired 2 new developers, and both are doing a great job. And one of them's straight out of university. And, and a similar thing when I was interviewing people who'd been to university, and I was talking to them about all the projects they built. They're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't learn any of that at university. I had to go teach myself." And I know this goes against the norm, and I still think universities are good for other stuff. But like, why were you paying so much money if to get the job you were learning about, you had to go and do all this learning outside of? I don't know. I feel some of the best programmers I've seen are self-taught and have learned online. But then you also get this other side of it, right? Where, people teach themselves and they teach themselves really bad habits, like,
yes. Yeah.
And they're convinced that their way is the best way because like some dude online told them that it is, you know, and you're just like, oh my God, you're just adding bugs and bugs every time you write a line of code, you know. So there's definitely a flip flop. I feel like if there was some sort of worldwide sort of governing sort of, you know, track to stick to, that'd be great. But I don't think a university is necessary.
Well, there's hacker rank.
All right, let's not get it too deep into it.
With like my advice for a lot of people starting out is try and contribute to open source projects, big ones.
Yes, that's good.
Because they'll pull you up as soon as you start, you know, writing anti-patterns and doing bad things.
Yeah.
So you get that experience of working with a team without having to apply for anything. You just write some code and submit it, and then
we're of the same opinion as well. So our experiences are quite similar to yours. Yeah, I am university trained, however, not in programming, not in computer science. Yeah. And I feel like computer science is still ultimately a science. You still need to apply that science, you know, make it engineering, you know, make it development, make it a craft. But that's not what university covers. It covers the scientific, theoretical aspects of it, which is useful when you need to optimize a database, or, you know, do real technical stuff.
Write a compiler, something that most people do not do in their day-to-day programming jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I feel like that can come later. Like that's like, so for example, that's something like I'm always doing a course. Like, so at the moment I'm doing a course in AI. I'm trying to get around to getting my MongoDB, you know, developer certificate, because I keep putting that off, even though I'm the head of the MongoDB chapter. But you know, like the Perf chapter actually belongs to me, and like I haven't even been accredited yet. Like, it's just,
but that's just the certification, right? That's not the same as knowing how to use it. So
yeah, that's true. Well, because I could just memorize all the questions, and you know, so I think with programming, you've got to be ready to be learning for your entire life. Like, you can't stop.
Exactly.
Because when you stop, you fall behind. You know,
especially in this field. And, you know, like you say, your focus has always been JavaScript. That field moves a lot quicker than other programming languages.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I remember when React first came out, it was this new cool thing that only hipsters would use. And it's become pretty popular today. We use TypeScript on our front end. And there's been a big movement. And we moved from Flow to TypeScript, and it's now settled. But who knows, in 2 years, there might be some new one. It's one of those things where it's always moving. We have to keep catching up. Which brings me back to what you said before. It's like, because you have people coming in constantly. People always like joining your business as well. They have to unlearn patterns. You have to teach them new patterns. And I think a lot of value is in the mentorship, actually.
So John actually asked you a question before, and I kind of rudely derailed that question.
Can't remember now.
Well, the question was, how do you think we could improve the community for existing developers? And I want to add to the question, those kids at the school, how do we get them into technology? How do we get them into software development, engineering? You know, how do, like, in your eyes, you've been here, you know, a few years now, and
it's a tricky one, I think. Well, I feel like there are some good movements going on, like She Codes.
She Codes is brilliant. Yeah,
it's fucking brilliant, is the word. You know, and there's organizations like that, but and there's also that thing like, you know, is teaching every kid to code the best solution, you know, as well. But for me, I think the biggest issue is that you have kids that are interested in coding, or like, you know, maybe a little, but their parents don't understand. Like, their parents in that way, they're like, no, you need to be a plumber, or you need to go work in the mines. You know, so I actually think like, you know, and this is just me riffing off the top of my head, like some outreach to like parents of kids, like there is so many different career paths in tech, and like you need to be aware of them to help your kid decide if, you know, because like there's so many aspects of programming. There's marketing, there's design, there's product, there's like it's unfathomable, you know. And I feel like it's not just coding that needs to be taught, it's that whole process, you know. Like, here's a taster of everything, because the reality is, you know, moving forward, lots of jobs are going to be around this sort of stuff, you know, like things will be automated away. So I feel like that's the first thing we could do to sort of help the younger generation, is actually help the parents.
It's a really interesting point. And no one's actually brought that up before.
No, I like
It's
it.
the parents.
I actually
Yeah.
just wrote it down in my iPad notes. So
Yeah, well,
we'll
it's definitely a valid point, because I know so many people like, oh, you know, I'm interested in programming, and their parent wants them to be a plumber or something, you know, or go work at the mines. The mines are nearly gone.
And it's a really good point. You can put a lot of attention into education, but if the parents aren't supporting it in even in just the smallest ways. So,
Yeah,
you know, when I was really young, I started coding mods for Doom, Quake, and
that's funny.
my dad didn't really support my use of the computer as much, but the fact that I wasn't just playing Carmageddon and I was actually programming, he bought me a nice computer, you know, and it's a really small thing, but it made a big difference in my life. Because honestly, if I'd had to continue on the first piece of shit we had, I probably wouldn't have continued.
That's brilliant.
It's just small amounts of support like that from your parents goes way further than anyone actually conceives.
Yeah,
totally. I think that's a really great point.
Yeah,
something like I said, I've actually written it down, and
we'll explore it in the future.
Yeah. I think it's everyone always talks about education programs and schools doing things, but if the parents aren't there realizing that it is a potentially fruitful career path, it's
definitely a big one. It's definitely a big one, I guess. But then, as for the question about like how do we make the community more accessible, that's a tricky one, because the community is there in Perth. You know, once you find it, you find that parts of it are really accessible. But it's for me, it was finding it. You know, like that was because like when I first obviously like I heard about Space Cubed, you know, when I first moved here. But when I went to Space Cubed, I never met many developers. I always met the swanky business people, you know. It's totally, because all I met was people that like take pictures of themselves with sunglasses in front of fancy cars on LinkedIn, you know. I was like, well, where's the other developers? So that was tricky.
They do go there, and then they get us to be CTO of like 5 different non-funded startups, and they stop going.
Yeah. That's my favorite one. Like, especially when you're a younger programmer, you know, like, look, working for free when you're starting out, sometimes it's good to get the experience, but like, it's like, you need to eat and pay rent. And people are like, oh yeah, just come work for us. This is worth $1 billion. You know,
it's $1 billion idea. We'll be working together. Well, no, but I'll be out there making business with the product that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. And it's like, I'll give you 10%. 10% of billion is a lot of money. Like, I've had that pitched to me so many times. Like, here you go, 10% of $1 billion company.
We are a commercial software development company, and we get that pitch. Yeah. So your freelance developers, that's pretty much just a constant of their life.
It's very funny. I think it's funny because it comes from people that don't understand tech as well. You know, they're just like, I've got this idea. Like, I think I've heard some outrageous ideas in my time, but I think my favorite one that I heard was an STD dating app. So
that exists.
Oh man,
that exists.
That exists.
Yeah. I've seen it somewhere before.
Maybe there's
no new idea under the sun.
Yeah, I think there's one for here we go. Positive singles. There you go.
Wow. Well, this was about, they came to me with about 4 years ago, and their idea was you open the app and you can just see the location of all the people with STDs. And I was like, right, okay,
that's problematic.
That's really problematic.
Perspective.
Yeah, I was like, they were like, no, it's really important that we just open and look, you know, like, I get it that some people have HIV and they live with it all their life, and you know, they need to feel empowered and supported. But like, if you just blanket the location of everybody with STDs in the name of openness, you're like, really? No, it's going to be fine.
That is absolutely a violation of the Privacy Act, and you absolutely will be crucified by the federal government.
They was extremely annoyed that I didn't want to build it. You know, because apparently I was, ducking out of the future or something like that.
You just didn't. What's the usual phrase is, you just don't get it.
Yeah, that's it. You don't get it. Yeah. So I've heard some good ideas in my time, but that was definitely one of the ones that really stuck with me, just from the privacy aspect. Yeah.
So we won't take up too much more of your time. We always end on a fun question.
Okay, cool. I'm down for a fun question.
I think John's got one for you.
I've got one. Yeah. So what I'm curious about is, because you jumped into programming a bit later in your life after university and stuff. Have you ever applied programming to your music, and how?
Well, see, this is the thing. Like when I actually think back to when I used, so I was in a band or two in my teenage years, and I played the drums, but I would actually write the music, and then my friend Eddie would write the riffs on top, and my sister wrote the lyrics. When I think back to actually how I used to compose music, it is very like programmatic. Like I would, write a section of music and be like, okay, that's cool, that's that section. And then I would write all these different sections and then place them together and see how they went, and like it was very mathematical. But while I was at university, when I started programming, like the first thing I built was a drum machine. And then for my dissertation, and then dissertation is the right word, like your final project in the third year. Thesis, that's the word. I built a program that composed and played piano music, and like people had to tell the difference between the pianist and my computer program.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so like
That's a humanizer basically.
Yeah. So like I because I wanted it to be random. Like I built it on Markov models, and then I like fed it. This was before I even knew what machine learning and AI was. Like I fed it like the MIDI, which is like a digital representation of music, like of all the popular songs for the last 10 years at the time, to help it choose which, chords and notes to pick and stuff. And sometimes it created really nice pieces of music, and other times it was pure trash, so
like normal music then.
Yeah.
Ooh, how could you say something so brave yet so controversial?
Well, I have to admit, like being a software engineer and also have done sound engineering and electronics, like sometimes music that gets into the charts, I'm like, I could have just built a piece of AI that wrote that, and like, how did that get into where's the humanness or creativity in it? It's just like.
I actually have a suspicion that in 20 years it'll be revealed that the music written from say 2010 onwards was mostly written by AI. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's been an experiment, using streaming services to craft the most perfect popular
AI.
music. Yeah.
That I could actually see that being true, because like if you go back further, like so many of the hit songs were written by the same people.
Right.
Like the Bee Gees helped so many other artists write their hit songs, and there's cases of that throughout history where it's just like these people writing all the same hit songs.
I think in Britain you had what were they called, like the Hit Box or something, Hit Factory.
Oh, Max Martin.
Yeah,
was a big one.
That guy.
He
The Hit
writes
Factory.
A lot of
music. Oh no, that was New York, but they're another one who are really famous for.
But they're looking into AI developed music lately, and some of it's good, some of it's terrible. But the field is moving forward pretty quick.
If those big recording studios don't have an AI division, I'll eat my hat. I'm sure they're onto it.
Yeah, they totally have. Because I remember like 10, 12 years ago, like going to shows where like musicians would get a computer to like compose stuff and they'd play alongside it, so like it is totally there. I mean, like even, was it Beethoven or someone like had this method for like composing music that, you could do mathematically, so it exists. It totally exists. I reckon so. I'll put my hat behind that one as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Alexander. It's really great to chat. Yeah.
No problem. It's good to chat too. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice break in the middle of the day.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to your day.
Again, Alex.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, Alexander.
Have a nice day. Bye.
You too, Alexander. And there you have it, another episode of Tech Society. It was great to learn about Alexander's views on education in technology, and also what technology drives ClimateClever. If you liked what you heard, visit techsociety.fm to check out more episodes. Any comments? Just tweet us at TechSociety. This episode was sponsored by Ninja Software at njs.dev.